So I've started a number of companies, principally technology companies. Sign is one that I'm a co-founder of, and we develop light-based therapies for cosmetic applications, hair removal, skin rejuvenation, pigment reduction, all that kind of stuff. And what we did was we miniaturized. Over the last 10 years, we took big lasers and we made them really small so that somebody could go in and buy this off the shelf and do it at home rather than go to the doctor's office or the dermatologist or to the salon. Beyond that, we've been working with a number of other companies in a number of fields, building them and developing platforms for them to take their ideas into the marketplace. And so I was asked to do a talk on innovation. I thought, yeah, that's easy, that's what we've been doing for the last 10 years, right? And then I had to try it. Then I thought, how do you define innovation? What is actually innovation in the context of entrepreneurship? And I realized I didn't actually truly know what it was we'd been doing for the last 10 years, we'd just been doing it. These slides are completely irrelevant, by the way. I just thought I'd stick them up for a bit of fun if you read that stuff. I'm sure you all work for somebody who's killed your creativity, which is why you're now entrepreneurs doing your own thing, I hope. But defining innovation in the context of entrepreneurship, I thought was a little challenging, frankly. So I'd like to, if you could indulge me for a little while, have that debate, if that's okay. So at least we get down the track to where we want to be going. So how do we define innovation in the context of entrepreneurship, invention, imitation? How many of you invented something here? 5, 6. How many of you are entrepreneurs? A lot more. How many of you are going to be entrepreneurs? Yeah. Right audience, I think, James, right audience. So there's something for a start. Not all entrepreneurs are inventors, but all entrepreneurs by default are innovators. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So what do entrepreneurs do exactly? Do they invent? Do they innovate? Do they imitate? I'm not going to give you the answer to this, by the way, but we might all come together with some kind of common agreement at the end of it. And I looked on the World Wide Web, fantastic thing. I found some things that some people said about innovation. I'm conscious also that I'm standing in front of the slides, so I shall move across the road. I don't want to stand behind that thing. So, much has been written about innovation, of course, and much has been said about it being a process. So innovation is not an idea, but it's the process of taking that idea to market, to creating value. Peter Drucker said innovation is the specific tool of entrepreneurs, the means by which they exploit change as an opportunity for a different business or a different service. And that sounds to me like a pretty sensible thing to be saying. Innovation is synonymous with risk-taking, and organizations that introduce revolutionary products and technologies take on the greatest risk. Is that right? So the 6 inventors took the greatest risk, did they? And the other kind of 30 or so entrepreneurs didn't. Yeah, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong, I'm just kind of challenging what people are saying innovation is. A less risky strategy, they're saying, is that of the imitator who starts with a new product, usually created by the revolutionary innovator, by the guy who had the idea in the first place. Dyson, for example, was the innovator. He also took it to market. Branson, on the other hand, was the imitator. I'm not sure he invented anything. But did one take more risk than the other? Help me out. Anybody?
No. Dyson didn't need to create a new market. There was already a market.
Branson had a near-death experience, as described this morning, when he was fighting with British Aerospace.
No, VA, you know, when on the flights, it's only
Yeah.
one name. So he put the figures.
So, well, you know, if we go by the evidence that we just saw when I kindly asked you to put your hands up earlier, according to research, 85% of entrepreneurs around the world build businesses based on somebody else's idea. But I still think they take a whole pile of risk doing it. No more risk than somebody who invents something and then tries to get it out. Creativity is thinking up new things, innovation is doing new things, was one neat quote that I got out of that. But an entrepreneur, whether an inventor or, in fact, an imitator, is defined by the fact that they take risk. Everybody in this room is taking or is going to take risk. Which is why you're here, I guess. I kind of like this, actually. An innovator is someone who pushes the boundaries of the known world, a change agent, relentless in making things happen and bringing ideas to execution. In many ways, innovation is the key to your success, no matter what your business is. When you stop innovating, you become mediocre. Entrepreneur.com. I kind of like that. Is there anything in there to be challenged? So I'm guessing you're all comfortable with that. At the back?
Yeah.
Good? So, thanks. It's about risk. Innovation in the context of entrepreneurship is about risk. And I guess that's the biggest thing that I could identify with, that everything we did was taking a risk. We didn't think about the process, necessarily. We thought about the idea and how we take it to market. And the process of doing that involved an awful lot of risk. Actually, the idea was the less risky part of it. The innovation, the thing that said we can take this big laser and we can make it this size. That was the least risky part of it. All of the rest, taking that idea and converting it into something that had value in the marketplace, was the risky part of the venture. And I guess it's probably the riskiest part of all of your ventures. So, I would like to talk, if it's okay with you, and please feel free to interrupt with questions, with points of view, to throw in your own thoughts about innovation in a small business, because that's what I was asked to talk about, but how that reflects itself in culture and opportunity and speed, flexibility, where we look for inspiration over innovation. I have a really lovely Danish friend who was the technical director of Bang & Olufsen, and he often said to me, there's a point in time where you should be engineer. And I think he was right. And, you know, possibly when you disclose an idea, and I'll put that in context of your kind of route to market. This pretty much is about my final slide, by the way, so I was, right, you know, if we don't talk now, we've done. Okay.
I noticed there's no reference to patents or intellectual property there. Does anybody here have any intellectual property? Okay, so do you think that forms part of the process?
Definitely. And it also forms part of the disclosure process as well. You know, somebody comes to me with an idea, the first thing I want to go off and do is tell somebody about it. The last thing that he wants to do is to go off and tell somebody about it. And it's kind of, where does that reach a point where you're safe? And where does it get to the point where you're too safe and you've lost the opportunity? Because if you keep your mouth shut about it, nobody's going to hear about it, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So I have some very, very lovely academic friends who whisper in my ear and say, don't do anything until the patent's published in 18 months' time. And I say, bollocks. I'm off to talk to somebody, and we'll take some risk. And, you know, you might lose a few, but, if you're 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people in a startup venture and you have very little, if any, cash in the bank, okay, and some of you are there right now, probably, some of you have been there, some of you may be going there. I hope that's not true. I wish I hadn't said that. James, slap my wrist on that one.
If you're paying for patents, you might well be going.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Frankly, what's the value of a non-disclosure agreement? What can you do about it? If somebody says, well, that's great, off you go, I'm going to do this somewhere else. Or I am going to spread this through my organisation, regardless of what your agreements say.
I think that with a non-disclosure agreement, I've had people that refuse to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and then I've had people that have agreed to sign them. So I think in itself, it also proves a document where you see that people are willing to talk business to business rather than someone who's got any other ulterior motive. But at least if someone isn't willing to sign an NDA, I would suppose people
the NDA is 1 page.
Yeah.
The NDA in 1 page.
Yeah, you can, absolutely.
And you can get them to sign it at the meeting, because it doesn't take long to read. If they don't want to sign it, fine.
I guess what I'm saying is that you absolutely should try and get an NDA signed. But even when it's signed, it doesn't mean anything when you're 5 people and no cash. Because, you know, if you want to, if they do something that you didn't want them to do because you had an NDA, what are you going to do about it? You've got nothing. So you're going to take a risk.
Just a question, is it actually about kind of like threatening legal suits, or is it just about kind of, you know, putting a contract together? Is it kind of like just defining really what you expect from that?
I think it is. I think it's good practice. It's about trust, isn't it? It's showing that, yeah, you'll sign an NDA, I'll sign an NDA because we trust each other, we're going to work together, and hopefully this will become something for us, right?
I also think you can ask them why they're not prepared to sign an NDA.
Yeah,
If
and
you're not prepared to sign it, and you don't trust the reason they're giving you, you kind of think, well, that's probably because you want to rip me off.
has anybody done business or has tried to do business with a very large Japanese company? Did you get an NDA with them?
I did, and Korean companies. And what I've found in NDAs in my business career is that you, in technology, which is very innovative and very fast moving, the last thing you want to do is sign a document which actually ties you for not releasing any of that information for 5 years. So the first thing I do is scrub out the 5 years and reduce the term, because you are in a fast moving environment. But yes, I have had them successfully signed.
Well, I mean, and that's impressive because you've done more than I could, frankly, with a Japanese company, because, you know, what they said was policy doesn't allow us to do that because we're so damn big, we do not know what our colleagues in other parts of Japan or the world are working on. And if we sign an NDA, that might compromise what the business is allowed to do, should we happen to bump into those people and talk to them about it. And so there are sometimes good reasons a large company might not sign an NDA. It's not necessarily because of trust. Then you have to make a decision. Am I going to take this risk or not? I believe the decision is the same whether you sign the NDA or not when you're a small 5-man company with no cash in the bank. For me, it's pretty much, and I'm not saying I'm right, by the way, because I spend most of my time being wrong rather than right. For me, it's a bit about, you know, it's a document that shows a level of trust and engagement, that people are willing to talk to you, you're willing to talk to them, it's signed, it's done, forget about it, move on. I think it has a little bit of meaning at the start of a conversation or a discussion. Beyond that, you know, unless you're Hewlett-Packard talking to Samsung, it's really just a piece of paper, right? And you take a risk. IP is a risk. You know, when you disclose the IP, it's a risk. You're not going to wait 18 months before it's in the public domain to get there. You're quite right. One of the things that we talk about in terms of the culture of an innovative company, particularly a small company, is one of speed. We don't have 18 months. You know, we're lucky to have 18 minutes. And so, for me, the disclosure of information is all about, you know, how quickly you want to be in the marketplace, who you need to be there with. It's all part of the process of taking the idea and commercializing it. And if you're disclosing it too far down the line, the market may well have gone, or it's moved on, or somebody's doing what you thought you were going to do. The thing that IP gives you, more than anything else, in my opinion, is freedom to operate. It's not about protecting, necessarily, what you do when you're a young, dynamic, 5-man company. It's about actually giving yourself the freedom to do what you want to do in the marketplace when you eventually get there. That's more valuable to me in a young startup venture than actually the thought that, well, if somebody infringes this in 6 years' time, I can sue the arse of them. Because if that's what you're thinking about in 6 years' time, you're still going to have no cash in the bank and you'll have nothing to sue them with. So it's about freedom to operate, getting out to the market. I'm going to skip on to a slide and come back to this one because, you know, frankly, don't worry about it. Because if your idea is a good one, you're going to have to ram it down somebody's throat anyway before they'll take interest. You're going to have to fight to get your idea out there, to get people to believe in it, to understand the potential that it has. We have, just to let you know, we just did a global deal with Procter & Gamble. We developed the UK's first retail light, home-based, light-based hair removal system. So intense pulse of light, you zap it on you, and your hair stops growing. It's fantastic to your underarms, to your legs. Ladies, just get the boots, it's out there now.
You've got the reverse as well.
We're working on that. Give me time, give me time. I'm serious, give me time. So what we did was we miniaturized this technology, and we did a partnership at first with Boots, and we co-branded what was called the Boots Smooth Skin by iPulse. iPulse is our brand. It represents the technology, which is an intelligent pulse of light which can be tuned to do different things cosmetically. What was interesting was that we were going to launch this in the UK in early 2009. And we were kind of hoping, knowing that Philips, the mighty Philips, had been working on their own system, we were kind of hoping they'd launch first. Because the market was new. Not many people actually knew about things like laser hair removal and the fact that you go to clinics and salons and get this done. Nobody knew the fact that you could now go to Boots, or potentially you could be going to Boots to go and buy this and do it at home whilst you're watching Coronation Street or EastEnders or whatever intellectual stuff you watch at home. And so we thought, well, maybe if Philips launched this, they're going to spend millions on marketing. They're going to open up the market for us. They're going to tell people about it. They're going to make people aware. And we're going to stick the Boots product right alongside them in Boots stores. And who are the ladies going to buy from? Boots, right? Philips is a kind of a manly brand. Electronics, TVs, all that kind of stuff. Boots is very trusted. There's like 70 million people in the UK. You know, there are 40 million Advantage card holders.
So just to interrupt
Yeah.
that, so
Please do.
was it a joint development project?
No. Yes, in a sense. It was, we developed the technology. We did all the early clinical work. They wanted to do a clinical study of their own, which probably delayed launch by about 9 months. But that's fine. And we thought that in that 9 months, Philips would come in, blaze a trail, and we'd walk in there, and we'd take market share. We actually thought that being first to market in a very new space like this might not be the right thing to do. Well, they're the biggest beauty electrical retailer in the UK. Their website sales are significantly strong. We had a partnership with them, and bollocks, you know, that's rubbish. Their chairman, Sir Nigel Rudd, was an investor in our company. We got lucky, frankly. If I'm honest. We were lucky. Now, all those other things I said about Boots were actually true. So we were really lucky. Because if he was the chairman of Comet, it would have been a nightmare. But we took the view, and I still don't know whether this was right or wrong or not. We took the view that actually being second market would be the right thing to do. Philips didn't launch. They tried it in Spain first off and had problems with the product and then pulled it and delayed their launch by another year in other markets. So we were, in fact, the first because we thought, well, we can't wait, let's go. We were the first. We took market lead because we were the first. When Philips eventually came in, we retained that market lead position. Significantly, we were outselling them 4-1 on the shelves, even when they reduced the price. And that allowed us to attract a bigger partner. That bigger partner was Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble now have the product in Western Europe. It's branded the Gillette Venus Naked Skin by Braun. That's a mouthful. They now have 3 $1 billion plus brands on the product, for God's sake. You know? Anyway, they're Procter & Gamble, they can do what the hell they like, right? So, you know, that partnership with Boots took us to a global partnership with Procter & Gamble. It was a huge stepping stone for us. We took the view that we would be the first in the market, we couldn't wait, and it kind of worked. But I'm still not sure whether that first, second to market strategy in something that's completely new is the right thing or the wrong thing. Right now, I don't care much because, you know, we got lucky and it worked. But for, you know, your companies, maybe, you have that decision to think about. You have that decision to make sometime, hopefully in the near future. Do you go into the market first? Do you let somebody bigger, uglier, with more marketing bucks get in there before you? Here's the thing, all right? If you take, you know, the opportunity here, big companies can't do what little companies do, all right? It's not in their DNA, frankly. You know, and I would think about Philips and Procter & Gamble when illustrating that. In that Philips developed their technology in-house. And it took them 8-9 years to do it. And they spent something like $15 million getting there. P&G didn't do that because they came to us. We did it in like 2 years, okay? And we probably spent $2 or $3 million by then. But P&G came in to a partnership where the technology was developed. It had actually been in the market for a little while, so we'd proven the market wanted the product. It took them essentially 2 years from the point of engaging with us to getting the product into the market, which was probably 2 years shorter than they thought it would. And we challenged them. We said, yeah, it's going to take, you know, we signed the deal now, it's going to take us 2 years to get it launched in the market in Western Europe. And we said, 2 years, what the hell are you playing at? I said, if you can't do this in 9 months, there's something wrong with you. And they said, well, you can't do this in 9 months. And we said, yes, we can. Well, we couldn't, but we took 11. And we got it into the market. We did it really quick. You know, and what have they spent? They've spent the best part of 2 to 3 years, and they've spent, in terms of helping us with cash flow, to ramp up the supply chain, to finance the supply chain, they've probably advanced us around $1.9 million. This cost them $1.9 million. It's taken 2 years. Cost Philips $15 million, took them 8. They can't do what we do. That's the opportunity. For little companies that are innovating technology, service, process, that's what we can offer these big guys. So
if you had gone directly to P&G at the beginning, do you think they would have said no? But do you think the fact that they seen you were good was the link to them using it?
The answer, unhelpfully, is I don't know if they'd have said no, but I do know, to be fair, that the partnership with Boots had evidence to them a technology that worked, both technically and clinically, that there was a market for it, and we could take a market lead position with the right product. There was an awful lot of evidence when they came into it, to be fair, for that. However, we had the discussion with them 2 years before, and they said we want to do it now anyway, without that evidence, we'd have gone with it. Of course we would have.
How did you get out of the deal with Boots?
Well, it's pretty easy. P&G sell a lot of product there. You know, Boots couldn't take the product beyond the UK shores. You know, and we said that the only way we can do this is if we expand the markets into other places. They claim that they have some strength in Europe and they are particularly strong in North America, but they're not in truth. And they were pretty good. You know, and they have a terrific relationship with P&G, so it was reasonably straightforward. Complicated by logistics more than anything else, in that, you know, they had to destock before P&G could come in with their stock, that kind of thing. You know, the thing is, telling somebody what you have or what you're capable of is one thing. Actually showing them and implementing it before you have an agreement is an even bigger step in the kind of risk scale, if you ask me. But hey, I've seen people do that, you know, a number of times. The one thing I would advise is that, yeah, I think disclosure is fine, frankly. I've got an idea, here it is, what do you think? I think that's fine. Then don't tell them how you do it until you do have some kind of commercial relationship or understanding or agreement in place that you can stand behind. Sometimes you don't get that opportunity. You really do have to take a bet. And I guess most of us are taking bets most of the time. And gut feel comes into play, I guess. Can you trust them? I think, you know, I was sort of thinking context also here about, you know, where do you look for inspiration of, if you're an innovative company, okay, you're an entrepreneur, you're dynamic, you bring people in, you want them to be innovative, you want them to be doing clever things, making things better, improving them, making them faster, all that kind of stuff. Where do you as a company look for inspiration? Is it in your leadership? It should be. I think leadership and inspiration and innovation, sorry, come together. How do you allow your people to add value in the business beyond the kind of big idea thing that improves and innovates on everything that you do every day, that allows you to get to market with a more effective product or process or service offer or what it is, whatever it is? Where do you look for inspiration? And I'll kick it off. I heard this many, many years ago. It's not my original thinking, but somebody was in project management, I'm told, and they wanted to get better at project management. They wanted to be able to shorten the time scale between kickoff through the stage gates into delivery of whatever it was that they were delivering. Where do you think they went to see world-class project management? Any ideas? I hadn't, that's a killer, isn't it? I hadn't. But the point here is that's completely lateral thinking, right? He didn't get on a project management course. He went to a movie company. He went to a movie company. Think about it. The example I heard was that 97 people came together. And they had all sorts of skills and disciplines. You know, from people that were just running for sandwiches, the people operating cameras, the sound guy, the engineers, the special effects people, the director, the producer, the actors, the whole crew were skilled at what they do, but yet had not worked together before. And over the course of 90 days, they produced a movie. And the output was spectacular. And they produced it to a budget. 90 days, think about that. And this movie then became exported around the world and grossed millions of dollars. 90 days of project management, which was as good as you could possibly see project management deliver a product in any particular circumstance. That's where he went for inspiration. And I thought, that's absolutely fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. You know, if you're a logistics company, where do you go? You don't go to your competitor. You don't go to a course on logistics. You don't go to an airport. See how they do it there. Jesus, I'm amazed by Heathrow. I'm frustrated by it a lot of the time, frankly, but look around you, see what's going on. I mean, in terms of project management logistics, Jesus, it's brilliant. I'm still amazed that I go to this little red box at the end of my street with a little envelope and a 20 or 30, whatever P stamp it is these days, and the following morning at 9 o'clock, it's on the other side of the country. It's in Scotland somewhere, being delivered. That's fantastic. Okay, no email's quicker, but... so where do we go for inspiration? How do we get our people to be inspired to innovate in their jobs? But isn't that, in effect, what an entrepreneur does? Isn't it? So aren't we already doing it? I mean, we all worked for idiots, right? You know, in big companies, and we got pissed off, and we said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go and do my own thing. And we left. And we took the skills that we had learned and applied them in a much better way to what we wanted to do in our businesses, right? Isn't that what we do anyway? So how many of you employ quite a number of people? Let's say more than 10. Yeah, it's 2 or 3. Okay, it's two or 3 of you. Would you let your people go off to a movie company to learn? And that lack of response kind of tells me that maybe, as innovative as you probably are, you're not innovative enough in terms of bringing... You know, as you grow, the other thing is, I mean, it's kind of relative to growing as a company as well. We're now, Sidon, for example, is, I think it's like 35 people. And the founders were the principal innovators. I don't mean me, myself, you know, I'm no inventor or anything like that, but my 3 colleagues were brilliant in that department. But you bring more people in, because as you grow, as you develop, you need to bring more skills in. You need to think about delivering a product ultimately to your customer. You bring in an operational team, you bring in quality, you bring in processes. We've got a quality manual, it's like that thick, all right? It's ISO, BS, all this crap. I look at the cover and fall asleep. But I know how damned important it is. But I want those people to be innovative in the business as well. I want them to be thinking about how they do what they do, and how they can make it better, and how they can do it quicker. We brought in a quality manager, a lovely, lovely guy, terrifically skilled, spent 20 years in a medical device company, and we said, right, we're probably going to need to go into the US market, medical device approval, even though it's not necessarily a medical device, but it requires an FDA approval, so we need to go and get medical device approval. He said, okay, we can do that. I said, how long? He said, 2 years. I fell off my chair. 2 years? Are you kidding me? We're going to be in the market in 9 months. Go figure out how to do it in 9 months. And he has. But, you know, he came from a company that was much larger and did things in a way. And I recognize that you need kind of process. I recognize that you need something that says, in order to get a quality product off the end of a manufacturing line, you have to do all this stuff in between. And it's really important. But why can that stuff not be innovative too? Why can you not do that quicker? Because don't forget, if you're going to go and get a Procter & Gamble, you're going to need to be quick. You're going to need to be quick getting the idea to them, and you're going to be quick executing it. So how do we best innovate, and where do we look for inspiration for that innovation? So I would say, if you've got people coming into the business and you want them to deliver a product at the end of it, make sure that they are innovative. And if they need some inspiration, send them somewhere you wouldn't expect to send them normally, and let them go. If it's their idea, let them go.
Can I just ask anyone in the room, do they rely on innovation from within inside their companies, or is it all external? Do you have anybody in charge of designing inside your businesses, or do you all do it yourselves? Sounds like if they don't employ external help to do the innovation.
So So who's, in your company, who's responsible for innovation? Right answer.
Just to share something, I work for a housing association as well as just starting up our own business, and something that they do a lot in our work environment is they have meetings about everything, working groups, steering groups about everything, which is basically where everyone puts their ideas together. The managers sort of take it on board, say that's a good idea, and we take all the praise for it. But everyone comes together and gives ideas. And when we brought our property and we were setting up our business, we actually started a kind of small working group ourselves, you know, family members, some other people, friends who do art in college, who do design and things like that. And we just sort of made it like a working group committee, and I sort of took that idea from my workplace, and we just sort of once a month get together and we kind of just ask people if they've got any ideas about what we can do next, you know, and just steal other people's thoughts basically. And I took that from my workplace. If I hadn't seen it in work, I probably wouldn't have felt that was something I should do.
And isn't that just a great idea? Because you're bringing together people that are not necessarily daily involved in your business. They see things differently, very differently. You know, you're in there, you're down there, you're in with the nuts and bolts, and this person's coming. Look, the outsider looking in is very, very valuable. You know, and if you can do that, more of that, I'd encourage you. I think that's a great idea. I think the other thing is as well that you know, one of the things that we suffered from was becoming corporate as we grew. Now, if a number of you are going to go through growth, I hope all of you will go through growth, but one of the challenges that we found ourselves with was building the business with the right kind of professionals that could come in and take it to the next stage. All right? Here's an admission, okay? Give me a blank sheet of paper. Give me an idea that you have, and I'll figure out a way to best structure, put a structure around that, raise finance, and potentially get it to market. If you're a 50-person plus organization, I'm completely useless. I just don't fit in those places. I'm crap, right? So we recognize that we need to bring in people who are good at that can make a business big. We made the mistake of employing people that came from a business that already was big and had never gone through that growth. And that's all they think about is process. We took on, 8 months ago, we took on a chief exec. 2 months ago, we fired him. Because in the 6 months that he was with us, the decision-making process went from 10 minutes to 3 months. Because there had to be a process behind it. There had to be an evaluation. Oh, Jesus Christ, that was it. And this person, as much as I greatly respect him in a company of 20,000 people, he's an absolute diamond. In a company of 20, he's a disaster. And so as you go through your growth, and I don't know if anybody's getting to this point, and you need to bring in more skills. Think carefully about the skills that you're going to bring in. They have to fit in with the culture of the business, because the culture of the business is where the opportunity lies. The spirit of the business, the pride, the passion, the desire, the speed of that business is the thing that's going to make it work. And if you bring in anybody that's likely to slow it down, you're bringing in the wrong person. If you bring anybody in that is innovative in a process sense, that says, hey, hang on guys, we're off the wall, all right, let's button it down, let's make it work, let's deliver it and give the customer a product, and can do that at speed, then you've got probably the perfect blend. And so as we talk about, am I running close to time?
I'm just going to keep you on to time.
Oh, good.
I sort of got it wrong.
We don't have to finish all this, by the way. We can do other things if you like.
When you shoot the engineer, I mean, there's obviously something interesting about that.
Yeah, we shoot CEOs and engineers.
People ask questions in it.
Okay, cool. When do you shoot the engineer? I think, you know, there's a product that's ready for market. And the guy says, yeah, but it's not quite ready. You know, there's some improvements that we want to make. Okay, let's do these improvements then, because they sound like good ideas. And then we do that, and it has a knock-on effect. Now, as we're doing that, we discovered this, and there's another improvement to make, all right? I'm going down this theoretical timeline here. As I get to you, we'll be kind of really, we'll have missed the boat. And these improvements go on and on and on and on and on, and the product's never damn ready, all right? Sometimes it's okay to go to market with a product that is not ultimately the product you want to be in market with. That's what Apple do. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And in the last 20 years, they haven't made a product that doesn't crash every 5 minutes on me. You know, and so this is my view. For an example of this, we had a product that was clinically proven to do a lot of things, to remove hair, particularly on multiple skin types. So light skin type 1, dark skin type 5. And we were running clinical studies to extend that into different body areas, like the face, for example. And we could have waited, actually. We could have said, I'll tell you what, we're going to launch up to skin tone 5, safety use on the face, with all the ocular safety required, but it's going to be another 12 months before that's in market. Or we can do skin tones 1 to 3 now, off the face, and get a product in there. And sell another product later on. And because you've already got in there. Okay, you know, and Boots said, but you're excluding a whole bunch of people. We know. It's a risk we have to take. We know. Let's get into the market with something. Let's prove that it works. Let's prove that it's safe. And then extend it to other groups of people as we prove it. As we prove efficacy, as we prove safety, as we allow ourselves the time to do that. But don't wait until you've got the perfect product to get it out in the marketplace. No. No. So, you know, I guess it might not just be shoot the engineer, but it might be shoot the director of clinical affairs or whoever's kind of slowing that thing down. It might even be shoot the customer and move on. Actually, I'm quite serious. You know, if we build into our agreement with Procter & Gamble, and we'll do in other applications with other big companies, timescales that say if you ain't in the US market by September 2013, we have the right to go elsewhere. Why not? Why wait? It's not just us that have to be fast. It's them that have to be fast, particularly if your future depends on them. So I'm picking on the poor engineer. I'm sorry about that for those engineers in the room, but it could be anybody that's potentially stopping a product, maybe not the perfect market, but a product getting to the marketplace. And I think isn't that, I mean, that culture, you know, is typical of what we should be embracing in smaller companies, because frankly that's where it came from. You know, that's not a typical large company structure. Someone said, or I might even have read, give everyone 2 jobs. The first is to run your current job in the most effective way possible, and your second job at the same time is to find a completely new way of doing your first job. And that maybe is the kind of Google way of doing things, is that, you know, the people that you employ have to spend as much time as they possibly can be allowed to innovating the way that they do things. Or innovate in the way that other people that they work with and interface with do things. I think that's how we will grow and survive.
I've done my job.
Well done.
Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and thank you very much to Kevin Smith.
Thank you.